when your club signs a player, you should be excited. We know that some of the players that are playing in this position are going to leave. We know that. We know United have not had players in that position this season because Rashford, Sancho, Antony have all been put out on loan. Garnacho, we think's more than likely going to go now with what's happened in the last week. So you've got a situation where Cunha, who, his goals have been growing in the last couple of years, had a decent return for a club that's been nearer the bottom of the Premier League than obviously the top. But am I excited? Yeah, I am. I'm excited by it because United need players who I think know the Premier League, who have got a bit more robustness about them in terms of what they've sort of been through before. And being at Wolves, that'll be bloody tough, by the way, because they lose quite a few matches, Wolves. I'm hoping that he comes to Old Trafford and sees this vast pitch, this amazing stadium with 75,000 fans who love a player who can take someone, who love a player who can travel with the ball. I'm hoping that he can bring a shine of light. And I'm not saying one player is never going to change what's going on at the moment, but one player can be a spark. One player can be a spark. We've seen that with games where Bruno has lifted United from being sort of ordinary, bang average and poor to being okay and winning matches. Now, if you can we don't know what's going to happen with Bruno, but if Bruno can start to link with Cunha and Cunha can bring the form that he's had, and you can start to add a couple of more in there as well, another forward, obviously, another wide player or so. You've got Ahmad there. You might think, okay, things are starting to get a little bit sort of more decent. But look, far too early to say. This is someone who's not getting carried away sat here on the 1st of June, when, to be fair, we just had the most horrendous season we've ever had, or one of the most horrendous seasons we've ever had. So, yeah, I am excited by it. I think he's the right type. He looks like the right type.
If you're Bruno Fernandes right now, Gary, would you give it more? I'm
torn on this one because I think if the 100 million fee is right and United get that, I don't think it's a bad fee. In fact, I think it's a great fee for someone at that age that's getting into sort of... United have had great years out of him. But I also think if he stays and says, no, I want to fight this out, I want to turn this around, I also think that's a great thing as well. So I'm on this one, I'm a little bit torn. I'm 50-50 in the sense of sort of what I think about it because £100 million United need to rebuild a squad. But on the other hand, they need players with personality and quality, and they haven't got that many. And he's one of them that they've got. Well, he's the only one they've got. So for me, I feel like I'm in a no-lose situation because I think if United have that money, then they're armed with the money to be able to go and build around someone else. But on the other hand, if he stays and we get another couple of years out of him, that should help us as a club, you know what I mean, in terms of having that level of player.
Sancho's been at Chelsea, of course, scored in the Conference League final, lovely goal, but no news about whether or not he's staying. Rashford's been at Villa, did okay. No news about whether or not Villa want him. Mainoo's future's been up in the air for a while. Garnacho, you've mentioned, not happy clearly at the club. And Antony, who went to Real Betis and did an interview recently talking about how awful his time at Manchester United was. What do you think about those five in terms of who would you try and keep, if any?
I mean, with Bruno, I was 50-50. And I think that, to be fair, maybe quite a few fans maybe think one way or the other. But on these five, I'm pretty certain. Marcus Rashford has to leave for him and for the club. I think that ship has sailed, and I think that he needs to find himself another club. I would worry that Villa haven't announced that they're keeping him already, because I think that could have been an easy deal to do with United if they were going to keep him. So it sounds to me like Villa aren't going to keep him, and United are going to end back up with him. But I would say that for Marcus's sake and for United's sake, that it feels like that path's come to an end. For Jadon Sancho, a little bit similarly with Marcus, I'd be a bit concerned that Chelsea haven't made the noises that they're going to keep him. Again, I think Manchester United have to make sure that basically they part ways with him. And I think for Jadon's point of view, he has to make sure that he parts ways with Manchester United. Antony, I think the interview is absolutely spot on. I can imagine he was absolutely going under while he was at Old Trafford. He's gone to Spain. Having seen a couple of players at Old Trafford that I played with not do it at Old Trafford but do it in Spain, and being in Spain for 4 or 5 months over there with Valencia and seeing the types of players, I think he's absolutely suited down to the ground, and it's been proven to be over there.
Why?
Just honestly, you go over there, there is a different tactical awareness, there's a different technical ability, and there's the way of playing that's just more suited to players. So the players that I'm referring to, players like Kleberson or Diego Forlan, they just didn't quite happen for them. But they had really good careers, by the way. I mean, Diego Forlan was sensational in Spain.
Yeah.
And I think there are players like that sometimes that just aren't suited to a league. And I think that, for me, Antony's perfect for Spain, perfect to play over there. Again, somebody that Manchester United should facilitate leaving. Best for Antony, best for the club. Garnacho, I think if players are taking on the manager and if players are questioning the manager in public through social media or through other means, the manager has to win. If the manager doesn't win, the manager has to leave. And I don't think that's going to happen this time. I think that's happened far too many times before. So I think Garnacho will leave just purely because of that. I think they've had enough. I think Garnacho, again, suited, I think, down to the ground. I mean, he can play in the Premier League, no doubt, but I think he'll love it in Spain. I think he'll thrive over there. I think he'll score goals. He'll probably be somebody next season that we're all looking back at and thinking, why did Manchester United keep him? That type of thing will happen with him probably. There's an element of that, but I think he has to go. And that's not me sort of throwing my toys out of the pram and saying, get him out of the club. No, I think for him and the player, so him and the club, I think it's right that he goes. So those 4 players I think should leave. Not just because Manchester United should let them go, but because they should, I think, go and find themselves a place in their lives where they can go and play football, because it's not at Old Trafford. Mainu, no. That's a step too far. If we can't give Kobbie Mainoo a job in that 2 in midfield, I look at Mainoo and I look at the way he plays football and I think, I tell you what, a top club will want him. Now, why can't we make him a top player? If he's one of ours and he's shown talent. Now, I don't know what's going on there in the last few months. He's obviously had some injuries this season, which has obviously caused him a problem, so he needs to stay fit. But I'd like to think that he could be one of that 2 in midfield that Ruben Amorim plays. It's probably not Casemiro as his partner, being honest with you. It's probably not Agate as his partner. It's probably someone else in there that's, better than those 2, being honest. But I think we should be building around Kobbie Mainoo in that centre of midfield, not just because he's come through the ranks. I'm all right for getting rid of players that have come through the ranks, but not players who've come through the ranks and haven't had the ability to go and show what they can do. Marcus Rashford's been at the club a long time. Garnacho's now had probably 2 or 3 years where he's basically tried to sort of, and there's obviously a bit of a situation going on as well. But Mainoo's a no for me. That boy doesn't leave.
Rebels are now set to enter talks with the Bees over a deal for the 25-year-old. Mbeumo, who scored 20 goals in the Premier League in 2020 for Flash 25, has established himself as an integral part of Thomas Frank's team and has drawn interest from around the Premier League. The forward has just 1 year left on his contract in West London, but Brentford hold an option to extend the deal by 12 months. The Bees star has drawn interest from Arsenal, Newcastle United, and Tottenham Hotspur, but the Athletic report Mbeumo favours a move to Old Trafford, provided they can agree a deal with his current club. He is unlikely to be available for a cheap price, with a £50 million she touted for his services. Brentford boss Frank